Welcome back to Based on a Book, the podcast that's ready to solve this mystery. It's Detective Keri. Solving the case? Barely. Staying for the drama? Absolutely. And apparently I'm singing now.
I'm Lindsey, and I'm here to remind you, you can't eat or drink at everybody's house.
Okay.
No. And I'm Crystal. I know better than to taunt a stalker.
Oh, Crystal, you're supposed to sing.
I mean, you can't eat at everybody's house.
This episode is the third and final part of my March mystery pick, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson and its 2024 TV adaptation. We will be covering the final 2 episodes of season 1 of the TV show and our final verdicts and wrap-up. If you would like to see our ratings and where we talk about episodes 1 and 2 of the show, that is in part 1. Or if you want us to see us talk about episodes 3 and 4 of the show, check out part 2. That being said, this episode is going to be full spoilers, including all the reveals. So if you haven't seen the show or read the book, do that, then come back and hang out with us. Or maybe don't, and we can tell you exactly what happened in our own version of the events. But before we start, some content warnings. This this show contains murder, violence, themes of suicide, trauma and emotional abuse, gore, substance abuse, talk of rape, sexual assault, kidnapping, animal death, and drug use. That's not all the content warnings. I recommend checking out Storygraph. They're pretty good at showing all the content warnings in the book. I know I said for the show, but they're very good at showing also everything that's in the book as well. So first, let's start off with a recap of where we left off in part 2, because we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. I'm laughing at Crystal because she currently has a lollipop in her mouth.
I have a sore throat. I thought it would help.
All right, so let's recap where we left off. So it was revealed that Sal, the guy that has been accused of murdering his girlfriend Andy, was telling the truth about the time that he left his friend's house and the time that he had got home. So remember, his friends went to the police and stated that Sal was lying of what time he left his friend's house and that he actually left earlier, making him an official suspect on the case. But after Pip, our main character, searched through one of the friend's photos on his social media, Max, she found a photo that proved that this was false, and now she is confronting one of the friends, Naomi, about this.
Because they're all liars.
Yeah.
And now Sal's dead because of it.
Yes. So now, starting on episode 5, show versus book breakdown. Okay, so right off the bat, Pip is confronting Naomi and Max, asking why they lied. And this is done a little differently between the book and the show. In the show, they're at some class reunion for some reason, and she's confronting them there. In the book, she's actually confronting them at Naomi's house, or Naomi's family's house.
Mm-hmm.
So Naomi, Kara, Naomi's younger sister, is there, and I think like Naomi and Max are like doing like looking for
studying
jobs
together
or
or something.
Yeah. So it's revealed that. So remember where we left off, like at the end of the show, Naomi's last line is, because they know what we did. And we're like, well, what the heck is she talking about? So we find out that back in the day, Naomi, Max, and like a couple of friends were out partying, and Max was driving drunk, and they got a DUI, and there was a hit and run. So they hit somebody, thought that they killed someone, and they left. And Max kind of was like, Naomi was like, no, we need to help. And Max was like, no, we have to leave. Called someone to help,
To go take care of the situation,
care of the
basically.
situation so they could, get out of it and be good to go without getting in trouble. Had someone clean up the mess kind of thing. And then, so they never told anyone about that happening. So whenever they went and were alibis for Sal and said, like, yeah, he didn't leave until like 12:15. So like, we are alibis and we can confirm that. They received a threat saying to this group of friends, received a threat saying, we will say and reveal about this hit and run unless you come forward and say that Sal actually left earlier at 10:30 p.m. If you don't say this, then we will tell everyone about this hit and run. So that's why the friends lied about what time Sal actually left. So at this point, I really like this point in the book. This doesn't happen in the show. But in the book, Pip tells Ravi about all this. And they reenact the murder if it happened, if Sal were to leave at the time that he said. Like, if it was possible. Like, if he left at 12:15 and got home at 12:50. Was it 12:15? Or is it 12:30?
Yeah.
Okay. 12:15.
But they give him some, like, time difference. They're like, we're going to give him, maybe the times were off by, like, 5 minutes on either side.
Yeah. And they reenact the entire murder. And what it would take to, like, go hide the body and go do it. And it would have to be, like, if it was perfect. Like, if it was the most perfect thing in all circumstances where nothing got in the way of the circumstances. Reenact it. And they reenact the whole thing really fast. And they get back to the house. And they don't get back in time by the time that his dad had confirmed that he had got home. That Sal had got home that night. And Ravi has this moment, and I got emotional at this part in the book. I did too. He has this moment where he's just screaming, yelling up at the sky because he's just so relieved. Because Pip looks at him and he's like, Sal's innocent.
We just proved he couldn't have done it.
It's impossible. It is literally impossible for him to ever have done this. And it's I literally am getting emotional just thinking about it right now. Just that was I can't even imagine the relief. Yeah. You feel, even though the whole time you're in your heart that your brother is innocent, it's I now have this tangible proof that this is.
And I feel legit. This scene could have been awesome if they had put it in the show. The reenactment scene would have been a really great scene to have.
I would have loved this in the show. The show would have been so great. It would have enhanced
the tension that
and the depth of them. The depth of their characters individually and their bond. I really love this part, and I really wish it was in the show, but it's not.
Honestly, it would have really reinforced the Sherlock Watson, thing, because that is a very Sherlock thing to do. It would have been so great.
Yeah. And immediately after this, Pip is having this moment where she's like, okay, what do I do with this information? Do I give it to the police or what do I do? And, Naomi and Kara are her very close friends. These are her second family, even their dad is literally that's her second father. She talks about that. They, she has her own slippers at their house because they all have these matching slippers and things like that. And she doesn't want to jeopardize their family.
Right.
But also she knows that this evidence that she has she doesn't think it's also she only has a photo for this. And the photo is she knows that Sal is the one taking the photo. He's not in the photo. And there is a clock in the background of what time it is. And I don't know. I feel weird that she's not taking it to the police. I get it. But it feels
well, the police have already kind of told her, stay out of this. You don't know what you're doing.
The police kind of don't give a fuck. And it's obvious.
This is already solved. Don't don't bring us more trouble.
Plus, you've got suspicious ass Dan over here,
right?
Who is very involved in this case. A police officer who is constantly telling her to butt out of it. And so at this point, she's kind of like telling, and Ravi's like wants to take it immediately. Obviously, like that's his brother. He wants to immediately get this done. And she's like, just give me a couple more weeks. We need to find more evidence. I need to find this burner phone, for one, that Andy had. I need to find something else on top of this.
And she knows they'll poke holes in the photo.
Yeah,
they'll say you doctored it. They'll say it doesn't prove it because we can't see him. We can't prove it was him who took it, whatever.
Yeah. So, and then next, we get another unknown text. So, in the book, someone actually breaks into her room and leaves a note on her laptop stating, "You need to stop this, Pippa."
And by breaks in, they use the spare key.
Yeah. That's the big thing. It's like everyone just uses the spare key that's like on your front porch. Okay, take the spare key off the front porch. All right?
Immediately. Should have taken it off immediately.
Yeah, exactly. In the show, she's standing the back window and she gets an unknown text that says, "Nice PJs."
It says, "You stupid bitch. Nice PJs."
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really what it says. And then she's like, "Oh, I think it's a really good idea to open the back door and just start walking around outside."
In the dark.
That's my note. It says, "This bitch goes outside knowing there's someone out there." I mean, really?
With no weapon.
No weapon. She doesn't wake up her mom and dad. She doesn't take her phone with her. She just walks out there with her dog, like
looking around, like no.
What? No.
And then in the show, she's like getting so pissed and she's getting real cocky. Okay, she's getting all cocky and she's getting like really mad that somebody's sending her unknown threats. So she's like, "I know what's gonna draw them out. I'm gonna make a TikTok video threatening them."
That's my next note.
That's a good idea.
My next note is like and subscribe for updates on the case.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Honestly, that's so that's so
juvenile.
Yeah, like Gen Z vibes right there, I feel. And honestly, it made me laugh. It made me laugh because it's so like the vibe right now, like something that would happen right now.
Pretty much.
Like, I'm investigating the case and don't threaten me. I'm putting on my TikTok video.
Exactly. Like, I'll draw them out with a...
Don't come for me.
But do come for me. That's the whole point of this video.
Yeah, come show your face.
I'm going to draw you out with a strategically posted TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after she receives this threatening text, in the book only, this is not in the show, she actually talks to Becca again and confronting her about Andy selling drugs and visits her at Becca's job. Becca is a journalist, and whenever she's visiting her at her job, Becca talks about, she's like, "Oh, what are you writing about?" And Becca talks about how she's writing about saving a farmhouse, which is going to be essential later in the story. She also reveals that Dan, the police officer, Nat's brother, who's suspicious as hell, was close with the Bell family. And this is, again, super weird timeline in the show. Timelines are going to be very off randomly throughout the show because, like I've said in the previous parts of our episodes, that for every clue in the show, there's like 8 clues in the book. So we discover in the show that he actually was the one that was this. I mean, I'm not really sure where this comes in at the show, but I'm kind of just throwing it in right here because the timelines are about to be kind of crazy.
Jackarood.
Yeah, but he actually was the one that covered up the hit and run with Max. And he also reveals later that he had a thing with Andy as she's a minor. Note that.
This was well before she disappeared.
Yes, before she disappeared. So, still on the suspect list. All right. Warning Okay? Big warning, fat warning, sad as fuck material about to happen. Lindsay, when this happened, Lindsay, I literally almost wanted to text you. I almost wanted to text you and be like, oh my gosh, Lindsay.
I almost texted you both and was like, yeah, it's hurting me not to talk about this one too.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this whole part that we're about to talk about, I was really hoping they were not going to put this in the show, but somehow they made it fucking worse.
They made it worse.
I didn't think that they could make it worse, but they did. And so basically, remember, she's been getting all these threats, getting lots of threats and stuff. And in the book, she is walking her dog, Barney, and her Barney gets snatched. And now Barney is missing. In the movie, during her brother's birthday party, Barney gets snatched and he's missing. And in the show, they're kind of like make it seem like almost like the brother is gonna go missing.
Right, because she gets the text says like if you want him back.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't say who.
Yeah. And then you eventually find out Barney is missing. And the unknown person in the book says, you need to ruin all your evidence. Like, you need to ruin your laptop, all like the recordings, everything, and I'll bring your dog back. And she's like, okay. And then she goes to this location that they say to go to, and she smashes everything. All of her family and people are looking for her dog, and she's like not telling anyone. She's getting these unknown messages.
Right.
And she's like, okay, I'll do that. And like smashes everything. And she goes back home and is waiting for this unknown person to bring back her dog. And then her dad comes in and said that they found the dog had drowned. And then the show makes it 20 times worse because they're looking for the dog, and instead, warning, the show shows a dead dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like a full, like literally shows it. Like saying that it got hit by a car, but we know that didn't happen. The unknown person did something, and it shows everything. So if you don't like that, don't watch this show, because honestly, that I did not like that at all.
There's a website called like Does the Dog Die? And it tells you, and like you can look up a movie to see if the animal in the movie dies. The dog dies.
Yeah. The dog definitely dies. And it was really sad, and I was really hoping they were going to take that out of the show, and I was like, wow, you made it 20 times worse. I didn't think that was possible.
I mean, they kind of had to leave it in because it does give a clue.
Yeah,
later, but it still
the
sucked.
dog.
Yeah,
the poor dog. So at this point, you know, in the book specifically, like remember in the beginning, like before she was like pushing Ravi away. This is in the book is when she starts to push Ravi away, and she does not tell. I love this part in the book a lot. I love this part because Ravi knows Pip.
Mm-hmm.
He knows her. They're like this. They're like close. And so she pushes Ravi away, and he says some mean things to her. He's like, because he's hurt. Because why would you do this? Why would you push me away? We're so close right now. We're like right at the end. And she pushes him away because she's like, I don't want anyone else to get hurt, but I'm not going to tell him about the unknown stuff. I don't want to tell him anything else. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So I'm going to hurt him pushing away. I hate when that happens. Mm-hmm. So he leaves for like he leaves for like a night.
That night. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he comes back the next day. And he's like, can I talk to you? And he's like, what happened? Like, he's like, what happened to make, because I know that you wouldn't do this. Like, what happened? What happened with the dog? Who took the dog or something? Because he knows something was involved with the dog, because he knows her, that she wouldn't do this.
Mm-mm.
And I love that so much in the book. I love it because they're so close. And she reveals about the unknown threats that she's been getting. And, you know, she has like a really emotional moment with him, and it's so good.
And I feel like this is the part in the book that kind of slows down a little bit because we've basically got all the info we need, and now it's just a matter of piecing it together. But in the show, everything happens really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, there's like still like clues that are going in. Clues that we kind of already know in the show.
Right. They just get like reconfirmed a little bit.
They're reconfirmed and they're dragged out in the book. But right now we are in the show, and immediately she's getting a call. Remember back in episode before this, she wrote down in her phone, secret older guy, ? Put in a phone number that she saw from the guest book, who she thought would possibly be secret older guy. And she's getting a call from secret older guy. She's like, who the hell's this?
Gasp.
Who the hell's this? Secret older guy is calling me. He's just like, hello? It's freaking Naomi is calling her.
And she's like, where are you calling from?
Yeah. She's like, my dad let me borrow his phone.
Max had smashed her phone.
Right.
Bitch,
and her dad
what?
had an old phone in a drawer somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, oh.
Yeah. And so in the book, she's contacting from a number, and Pip is like, I kind of recognize this number. This number looks familiar. And then she connects. She's like, it's the number from the agenda. So I want to say at this point, now that we're at this reveal, I suspected the dad.
Oh, yeah.
Because I knew about the dad only because of the book when she had that interview with him, and because she was calling him an asshole.
The interview,
and she didn't like him.
The interview with
snacks.
I didn't catch on to that part.
I caught the missing snacks so fast because I was like, that's a really dumb thing to put in the book if there isn't a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
That went over my head. I missed the snacks completely.
And then even in the show, like in the very first episode, Naomi's like, stuff just goes missing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Pajamas, socks, food. And Pip is like, you just need to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff doesn't go missing. And in my head, I'm like, wow, you're laying it on thick in episode 1. But like it in the book, that kind of is a theme that the stuff is missing. I know Dad just bought some yesterday. Like, you know,
maybe they laid it on thick because they took out those interviews.
Yeah.
It was the interview where he lied, the correct punctuation in the text from Sal. Only an adult was going to add those commas and periods.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Andy's picture that Max found in a classroom.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even catch on to the found in the classroom part or anything. It was literally just that interview and her not liking him. I was like, oh, yep, no, that's the secret older guy. And I didn't think of anything else. I was like, secret older guy, that's him.
Yep.
Literally the only classroom we hear about is his classroom.
Yeah. So she sees that borrowing from the dad, so now she knows secret older guy's phone number is connected to Naomi's dad. Naomi and Kara, her best friend's dad, the dad that she has grown up with. So whenever she's at their house, she like goes to their house, she checks their printer. She checks like the printer history.
The print spooler on the printer, yeah.
And then she prints like from the date that she had received a note saying like, stop digging, Pippa, or whatever.
I want to talk about this printer for a second.
Okay.
In the book, the printer is named Freddie Prince Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they have this whole hit and run story, which is oddly similar to I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Right?
Starring Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yep.
There's
I caught that.
That's good.
I love that. Yeah, so she prints like something from the date, an unnamed document from that date that she had received, an unknown letter or whatever, and it says to stop digging. And she sees he was the one that was leaving her that unknown message.
And she had left her phone in his car on purpose because she kind of had a suspicion after she got that phone call from Naomi.
Mm-hmm.
So she left her phone in his car so that she could track her phone.
Yeah. And that's a little different in the book and movie too. Movie, she leaves it in his car and she's tracking on her laptop. In the book, I think this is super important. She actually gives Ravi her location so that he can track her phone's
Find
location.
my friends.
Yeah. So they track the location and see that their Mr. Ward is going to this like random house. He's like a tutor too, and he said he was going to tutor at this house in like another location, and then when they were tracking, he's going completely opposite somewhere else.
Even in the book, this is what gave me the red flag on Mr. Ward, was that he's tutoring all the time, and yet he talks about how like his wife had died. His daughters are, his oldest daughter, Naomi, is definitely struggling a lot and she's been going to therapy. Like, so why are you spending so much time away from home? And in the book, they don't need the money. In the book, apparently money is not an issue for their family. They inherited a lot of money. Their life insurance policy on their mom was good, whatever. And so when he's suddenly tutoring 3 and 4 times nights a week, but you also know that your daughter is really hardcore struggling after the loss of her mom and she's been going to therapy and she's having such a rough time. Like, most parents would probably cut that tutoring back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that was a red flag for me that I was like, he ain't tutoring.
Yeah. So she sees the house that he's going to, and it's actually his old house that he was actually supposed to sell, like that their family used to live in. And Pip recognizes that and confirms it with Kara, like, as in like, my mom, because her mom
is a realtor in the
book. And she's like, my mom's selling a house on this street. Didn't you used to live there? She's like, yeah, but I lived at this house number, not the one that you just said. And she's like, oh, okay. So she confirms, because Pip's pretty smart, and she confirms that that's the location that the dad is at, and it's their old house, and he should not be there.
The address was like 42 or 44. I really thought it was going to be the 44, and it was going to tie back to Andy's note with the IV 4.
Oh, that would have been good.
But it wasn't. It was 42.
Yeah, that would have been good. But so in the book, she does eventually get like her phone back. Like, there's even more clues on top of that.
Well,
it gets more drawn
time.
out. Yeah. It gets more drawn out. So she like gets her phone back at that point, which I think is very important in the storyline, because whenever she's driving up, because she's like, tells Ravi, she's like, okay, she tells him everything. He's at this location, all this stuff. And Ravi's like, okay, well, what's the next step? Like, we need to like call the police and all that stuff. And she's like, yeah, we need to call the police. And then she's like, okay. And then she gets in her car and she's driving because she's like, fuck it. Like, I'm freaking over this shit. Like, I'm done. Like, she's so pissed because this man has been so involved in her life, and her, like, this is her friends and everything like that. Like, you're done. You're done. Like, 17-year-old Pip said, screw this, you're done. And so drives there. And I actually love this in the book because she's calling the police and she's like, just letting you know, I'm going to this location and I'm going to confront this person. And he is guilty of this. And I'm going in there right now.
Yep. Like,
and the police are like, ma'am, don't go in there. She's like, yeah, no, I'm going in there right now. And hangs up. Like, oh my God, she doesn't even care. In the movie, or in the she never gets her phone back. She tracks, because she has her laptop to track it, and she tracks her phone to that location, and her phone's trapped in the car, and she still goes to the house and knocks on the front door, or she confronts him because he like comes out in the driveway or something.
Yep.
But like, I'm like, girl, get your phone first. We need to call the police.
But the door was locked because she did try to open it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that would freak me out.
Yeah, like, this man is probably a murderer, and you're about to walk into a house alone with him. Like,
So,
once again, she ain't that smart.
No,
this is not the Pip from the book.
So Pip confronts Mr. Ward,
And he denies a lot
in the show.
In the show. Mm-hmm.
In the show.
In the book, he just spills it.
Like, he literally, his face, like, goes completely, because she's just like, you need to tell me everything. I know, you need to tell me everything. And he just, like, goes completely white in the book, and he's just like, okay, and just starts confessing and spilling.
It's almost like he needed to confess.
Yeah.
Like, he almost was, like, relieved to finally confess.
So, in the book, he confesses that he was having an affair with Andy and confesses that she is still in the house that they are currently standing in. In the show, Mr. Ward confesses about, like, it takes him a really long time, and he's very, like, deny, and then eventually confesses to some of it, but says no one is in the house. Like, he's like, I don't know where Andy is. I have no idea. And so, in the book, Pip runs up to go check where Andy is because, you know, he's like,
yeah, she's here. She's in the attic.
Yeah, she's in the attic. And in the show, Pip hears, like, the pipes.
Someone's banging on the pipes.
And somebody is in the attic, and she, like, looks at Mr. Ward, and then she runs upstairs.
In the book, she at least waited for the cops to show up.
Yeah.
And in the show, she just ran up there.
And it's so funny in the book because she waits for the cops to show up, and, like, the cops are like, ma'am, you need to wait down here. And she's just, like, marching up. Like, Detective Pip is here, and she's on the case, and she controls the case. You need to listen to her.
I mean, she knows more than they did this whole time.
Exactly. So here is, honestly, the twist I did not see coming.
Yeah.
Is Pip walking up in this attic, and someone in the book, I'm only talking about the book right now, Pip walking up in this attic and opening the attic and expecting to see Andy, and a girl saying, I'm Andy, and Pip looking at her and going, you're not Andy.
Yeah. I kind of knew, though, because, like, I kind of caught that might be happening when Elliot Ward is confessing to Pippa. He's like, you know, I found her again. She had hit her head and she disappeared, and I never, like, saw her. I assumed she just died in the woods somewhere. But then, like, months later, I'm driving down the road and I saw her, and I brought her home, and I knew that she couldn't go back. And so I brought her here, and, like, she's different. She's nice. She's happy here. She loves it. And I've thought to myself, that is not the Andy that any of us learned about. You know what I mean?
Because he also said, like, whenever I found her, she was, like, on drugs and, like, all these things, and
yeah,
unrecognizable. Well, like, to the point, so unrecognizable that that's not even, like, her.
Right.
That's not even the same person. But yeah, so and the day that Andy went missing, Mr. Ward and Andy got into an argument to the point that Andy was destroying these paintings that Mr. Ward's wife that had passed had made, and Mr. Ward just, like, freaked out. And I keep calling him Mr. Ward because I don't remember what his
Elliot.
Elliot freaked out and pushed her, and she got, like, a big gash on the back of her head. And she left, and he thought that she had maybe died or something happened because she was missing after that.
Right.
And she had a big wound on the back of her head.
And so he assumed that he's the reason she died.
Yeah, and he's been looking, like you said, he was looking for her and, like, freaking out because he's like, I need to find where she went.
Right.
In the show, he found this girl. Well, how this episode ends, Pip runs up into the attic to go see who it was, and she's like, you're not Andy, and the girl knows she's not Andy, and she's like,
she says,
I'm
not Andy.
And then Elliot smashes the attic close.
Yeah, and bolts it.
Yeah, and traps them both up there. And that's how episode 5 ends.
Yeah.
Going into episode 6.
Okay. My first note, episode 6. Elliot doesn't confess to Pippa, but don't worry, Attic Girl knows what happened.
Mhm.
Literally, Mr. Ward confessed to Isla while he was drinking. My
Yeah.
first note.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't know her name was Isla yet, so I just wrote down Attic Girl.
I wrote down not Andy, and then I
Yeah.
changed it to Isla when I
Yeah.
figured out.
Yeah.
So now here's Attic Girl telling Pippa what happened to Sal because she knows what Mr. Ward did.
Mhm.
You know, and Pippa doesn't get to talk to Mr. Ward about this until like he's taken away by the police at this point. So she doesn't get to talk to him again. And so she's like doesn't hear any of his confession to the police or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we find out through the girl that Mr. Ward had in the attic that he killed Sal. And
To cover up
Yeah.
cover up his killing, what he thinks is his killing of Andy, because
Yes.
he thinks that him pushing her and her falling
Yeah.
is what ultimately killed her.
And we see this as a flashback in the show.
Mm.
We see it as a flashback, and whenever he's like confessing all this to this poor girl, I'm thinking in my head, okay, he's confessing all this, like you're not leaving.
You're not leaving. Yeah. And you can see it in her face. She knows
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
She knows it.
Yeah, and she tries to run away, and
She tries to like say it sounds like you're a really good person that got caught in bad situation.
Mhm.
And she tries to keep him calm. And then she tries to bolt and he catches her, and that's that.
Yeah. So eventually, after all this confession happens, or in the book, and then what we find out in the show, police eventually show up and take Mr. Ward away. And honestly, like I said again, I just love the soundtrack in the show, and like the music that comes in at this part whenever he's being taken away is just like so good. I can't get
Mhm.
over it. I just love good music in a show. Anyways, but so in the book at this point, Ravio also shows up because he had, remember he had her location on her, and that's very important for the rest of this, for the rest of the book.
Mm-hmm.
He always has her location now, and he comes, picks her up from the house, and he's like, "Why didn't you wait for me?" And in the book, they drive past the Bell family that's like all in the car because they think that like they're very confused because they're saying that they may have found Andy because this girl thinks that she's Andy in the
Mhm.
book.
And they need
That's
the
like-
family to confirm.
They need the family to confirm. And the Bell family, the parents are like look devastated and shocked. But Becca's sitting in the back. She looks shocked and confused. Becca's the sister. And Pippa's like, she's like tracking this in her head. And this is in the book, that's not in the show. But in the show, something that really irritates my soul is we put in a storyline of Ravi wants to leave town. I mean, I get why Ravi wants to leave town, but I don't like it.
But
Yeah,
not my Ravi.
Not my Ravi. Yeah.
Not me, Ravi.
Mm-mm.
Not me, Ravi.
Not me, Ravi.
Not me, Ravi.
Oh, Lord.
Not
Even
me.
Not
Not
Hermione. You.
Again, I'm done.
Okay, Ravi would never leave town, especially when we still need to uncover more information. But he wants to leave town, and I mean, I get it because this town has treated him like absolute garbage, and his brother has been innocent this entire time and was murdered.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't want to be here anymore, and I get that. But I feel sad, and I feel sad for Pip because they're so cute in the book, and I love them. And, Pip is putting her murder board away because she thinks everything is, put together. This is what the whole point of the project was trying to find out what was the truth behind for Sal, trying to prove Sal's innocence. And she goes in the show, she goes and questions Mr. Ward about her dog and other events because she's like, why the hell did you kill my dog?
Well, her mom was like, I don't understand why he won't admit to killing Andy.
Yeah.
He'll admit to killing Sal, but he won't admit to killing Andy.
Yeah.
And so, like, Pippa is kind of like, wait, that is kind of weird. And then it dawns on her that, like, the note versus the texts that she was getting are different. Like, the notes were like, don't do it, Pippa. Please stop, Pippa. You need to stop, Pippa. Whereas the texts were like, you dumb bitch. Like, super aggressive,
Yeah.
And so she's like, they were two different people. And so
Yeah.
she's going to confront Mr. Ward
Yeah.
at the police and, like, get some clarification. What exactly happened that night? What exactly happened?
Yeah.
And this is where we get the whole story of, like her asking, or like Andy asking for, demanding money, or else she's gonna blackmail him, and getting in the fight. And she was like, why would she need money? Why did she want to leave town? And then her dad sucked so bad, and blah blah blah, blah. And I saw that van leaving the house when it was very, like, there was something else going on.
Yeah. And also, like, I just got chills right now because I just thought of the part when she keeps thinking back in the show, because this is not in the book, this is only in the show. She keeps thinking about that original argument that she witnessed, and you witness it changing how she saw it in her head. Remember, she saw Andy, like, kind of walking away with tears in her eyes, and she was like, shh, whenever she was trying to walk away, and she saw Sal following her eventually and looking at Pip and being like, where did she go? Because they just walked by, and Pip tells him where she went. And she always has thought that that was, like, a really bad idea that she did that. But then the way that she's seeing it in her mind is it's, like, getting better. Like, he's actually trying to find Andy to help her because she's crying because she's upset about something else. And it's, like, changing in her head. So, yeah. So she talks to Elliot, and then I don't remember this happening in the book, but she goes to investigate a dump with, like, cars and everything.
Yeah,
and she's, like, looking for a lead regarding
the
Andy's
van.
dad in this van. But in the show, she's, like, doing that. It's a dumb lead and it doesn't go anywhere. And then Pip comes to realize she has to think about the last person that saw Andy alive. And it clicks in her head. And she actually calls Max. And she realizes that Max was getting roofies from Andy because, remember, there was always, like, the R next to Max's, like, initials on the notes and things like that. And he was buying roofies off of Andy. And Pip calls him and confirms that he was using roofies and used it on Becca, Andy's sister, and raped her. And so at this point, she confirms that, and she's like, I have to go confront Becca. And at this point in the show, Ravi has left town and he's gone. But in the book, they're, like, going to go to, like, some, like, firework.
Yeah, it's
thing.
like a harvest festival or something.
Yeah. But also in the book that we don't ever get to see in the show is Ravi's parents coming over
I thought
and
that
having
was so
this
beautiful.
having this moment with Pip and Pip's parents, because it was just like, thank you for, like, taking the time, and finally someone is, like, listening to what we've been trying to do this entire time. And I thought that was, like, amazing. But Pip goes, because Detective Pip is back again, and she goes to Becca's house
without telling anyone.
Nope. Because she's just so tunnel vision person. Like, she cannot see outside of the tunnel. And she goes to get a confession from Becca, who says that she went to go talk to her sister about the events that happened with Max. She finds out that Andy was the one giving the roofies to Max. And when she went to confront her sister about it, her sister didn't really care. And they had a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Becca pushed her. Andy already had a head wound on the back of her head. Hit the floor or like a wall. Fell. And was like choking on her own vomit. Died. And Becca would have watched her die.
Didn't bother to help or anything. And she talks about, I just stood there and watched.
Yep. So just stood there and watched, and then had to dispose of her. And when she talks, we talked about before, when she Pip interviewed her before, she was interviewing her about at her job as a journalist, and she was talking about how she wanted to save a farmhouse. She wanted to save the farmhouse because Andy's body was at this farmhouse. But in the show, Andy's body is actually somewhere else. But Pip is at Becca's house, and she's kind of like being like, you know, you need to like, I'm not gonna do anything, like, you need to like leave town or something like that. Like, she's kind of like giving her an out
Right.
because she feels really like for Becca's circumstances. And at the whole time, she's drinking some tea. And it's not good because now Pip can't feel anything, and now she's passing out because Becca roofied her tea. And it's not good. It's not looking good for Pip at all.
You can't eat at everybody's house.
No, you can't. Can't drink no tea in nobody's house. Especially at somebody's house that you're getting a confession from.
Right.
All right?
Right.
Where's your recorder now? Not here.
Like, you already went in the house and you're there with her by yourself, and then you decide to drink tea?
Yeah, no. And she even was like, "No, I don't want no tea. I don't want any tea." And I'm like, "Are you sure you want tea? You want tea? You want some tea?" She's like, "All right, I'll have
drink
some tea."
up. Drink up.
Drink up. We'll go. I'll take
And in
it
the
to her
show,
body.
she's like, drink up and we'll get going. And so she drinks up, and before the roofie hits, she follows her out and gets in her car with her.
Yeah.
And then walks into the woods with her.
Into the
And
rave cave.
Walks into the cave with her. Like,
Yeah. So in the show,
Papa,
they
you
actually
idiot.
go to another location, back to the rave cave, where Andy's body is actually in the rave cave in a sewer in the rave cave. I mean, I don't know. But
it's a covered well. It's a well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so she's trying to, while Pip can't like feel anything, she's trying to dump her body into this well. And that where Andy's body is currently at. And so this whole situation, Ravi comes back because he has a feeling he just needs to come back, and comes back, gets Kara, and he's like, Kara, and Kara's like going through it. Kara's really going through it here. She just found
Kara's
out.
dad
Yeah.
is confessed to murdering Ravi's brother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awkward.
Yeah, that was really awkward. And she was like, I don't even want to have this confrontation right now. And then he was like, no, we need to go find Pip. Something's wrong. I feel like something's wrong. And so they go find Pip and save her.
Because
from
Kara
Becca.
does have Pip's location on her phone.
In the book, Pip never goes to another location. She's at Becca's house the whole time and being attacked by Becca. And then the whole family shows up to save her.
I
Like,
love
the
that
dad
it was her dad that saved her.
Yeah,
Yes.
the dad. I love that. It was good.
And he
Ravi's
called her
there.
Pickle.
I know.
He called her something different in the show. What did he call her in the show?
Chicken.
Chicken. Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Pickle was so much better.
Yeah. So then the book like wraps up where Pip is talking about her. I love how this wraps up. Pip is talking about her project and like giving a presentation, and with like a bunch of news outlets and stuff are there. And she stops her presentation and she makes Ravi get up and finally get to talk about his brother.
It's so funny that you love this moment, because I was cursing in this moment.
Why?
Because, like, Like, first of all, I think it is a lovely thing that Ravi got to talk about his brother, because he had said in the very beginning of the book that I don't even get to mourn for my brother. I don't get to remember my brother because like the whole town is so against our family and my brother. So it was that was beautiful, but at the same time, it's like, you're gonna just put this guy on this. You didn't tell him to prepare any notes or anything, and you're putting him in front of all these news crews. Like,
that's my worst nightmare.
It's that grand gesture thing that I keep talking about. I don't like.
True.
It's beautiful in a book, but like I was like, ooh, no.
Yeah, I was more thinking of it like he finally gets to like talk about his brother that he's been like begging to do.
Yeah.
In the show, they have like a little kissing moment. I'm like, oh,
it was kind of cute. Yeah.
I love them. I think they're a sweet moment. Cute. They're adorbs.
And then she like goes back to the like mural or whatever.
Yeah.
And sees Max and is like, and Max is like, bet you're happy you got this all wrapped up. And she's like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm going to come after you.
Yeah.
I love that.
In the book, he's like arrested.
Yes. For rape, for sexual assault.
Yeah. He's arrested in the book.
I wonder if the next books, though, and that's probably why they like ended with this in the show. So if the next season, the next books are her going after Max and all of the trouble that he's caused or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because like one of my takeaways from all of this is, sorry, I have a page, is that all of our actions have ripples. And a lot of this started with Max specifically, like and Jason Bell, right? Andy's dad, because he was so abusive to Andy that Andy was willing to do whatever it took to get out of there, including sell drugs.
Yeah.
And Max was willing to do whatever the hell he could to get whatever the hell he wanted. And those two things are what triggered all of this, you know?
Yeah. I think it's crazy.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the next books are about Max. That's my theory. I could probably look it up on Google, but I'm not gonna.
I think I looked into it, and I think the next book is something about Ravi and Pip having a podcast, and then someone else goes missing in the town, I believe. Ooh. Yeah, so I think that's interesting. Also, okay, so final verdict, book or show?
If you want a murder mystery, read the book. If you want a drama, watch the show.
I like that.
That's fair.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I probably won't read the rest of the books, but I probably will watch the next season when it comes out.
It looks like it was announced in November of last year. There's no like release date or anything. It was announced not that long ago. So
unless we cover it again. So
yeah.
Y'all let us know if we should.
Yeah. I'm down to cover the next season. I think it's going to be fun. So let's go ahead and go to our question of the episode. I think let's drop some true crime documentaries. Ones that's like stuck with you, that you think about a lot, that you would recommend. Crystal?
You
want to start us off?
I mean, no, but yeah, sure. I don't have any actually specific documentaries, but I do have specific crimes that I am really super fascinated with. All the Ted Bundy crimes and the stories. The Green River Killer, because we're still finding out, like still uncovering things that can be attributed to him. And Jack the Ripper, specifically the DNA evidence that they're now finding about Jack the Ripper that they're pretty sure points to one specific person. However, because of the way DNA works, it could not. Like, it's very, so just that in general, and the way science is helping us to solve a lot of these really old crimes is really super fascinating to me. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of the Ted Bundy stuff, that the Netflix exclusive documentaries are really freaking good.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Lindsay?
I wrote down a bunch of them, but I'm only going to say one.
Okay.
There was one documentary that came out back in 2016 called Beware the Slenderman.
I've heard of that. Mhm.
So if you know the whole creepypasta behind Slenderman back in, I don't remember if it happened in 2016. I think it was before that. But there were two 12-year-olds that attempted to murder their best friend and said that Slenderman told them to. And I just remember when Slenderman came out, it was so popular, and there were games about it, and it was all over the internet. There was a whole series that someone created on YouTube that I used to watch. I thought the whole thing was super fascinating, and then this happened, and it's really interesting. I definitely recommend it.
Okay. I'm gonna mention one, even though I know I already talked about this one in our Gone Girl episode.
I really love that. I know, yeah.
American Nightmare docuseries. Also, know they call it the Gone Girl case. I know I already talked about this, but this is one that's literally will be stuck with me for eternity. I always think about this case. I always refer to this case. It is like, honestly, probably one of my worst nightmares to think about. Like, just something so outrageous happening to you and no one believing you.
Yep.
And because it's so outrageous, and people using like a movie to try to prove something wrong. I'm trying to be very vague because I feel like looking into it is just so shocking, and I don't want to say too many details, but
no, but when you told us,
that one's just so stuck with me. I can't think of anything else besides that one.
When you told us that this was going to be the question of the episode, that I thought of that before I thought of anything else. So
that honestly was the first one I thought of. Yeah.
I just I can't stop thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to say the same one.
But it sticks with you. It's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. That one is just always on my mind. The case is so wild, and yeah, I highly recommend watching that, checking that one out. So that's all for this investigation. We've officially cracked the case, pieced together our clues, and we're probably completely wrong on a few things. If you had a blast like we did, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. If you have any theories, burning questions, or want to send us your true crime documentary recommendations, reach out to us on social media. We are available on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. We also have a book adaptation submission form in the show notes, so don't hesitate to send us an adaptation you loved or hated so we can possibly cover it in the future. Keep that murder board close by as we continue with mysteries in March, and we will see you in the next chapter of Based on a Book. Bye!
Bye!